What is up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome back to another episode of TV Talk. This week we are talking about The Last of Us, episode 5.
6.
6. Really?
Yes.
6.
Ken.
Time be flying. Yeah, Ken.
As in Friends, not a dude named Ken.
Is Ken not, like, short for family?
Also that.
Totally what I had thought.
I've
like
always
their brothers.
Whatever, it's just not a dude named Ken.
Not Ken, Kin.
Correct.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's episode 6.
Episode 6. I have that wrong on our graphics. I apologize.
You got it right on Twitter.
Been one of those days.
Boys, it's been one of them. Yeah. It's going to be one of them weeks. For sure. So, while I gather myself, what did you guys think of this week's episode?
I just feel like I'm a broken record at this point. Just going, gosh dang it, this show is so good. Is it every week? Every week. Oh, it's so good. Then I watch the trailer for the next episode, and it's just like, oh gosh, here we go again. Just waiting 7 days to... I get so annoyed when I have to wait all week for the next episode.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lot worse this week, because it was 9 days.
Yeah.
But man, I really enjoyed this episode. I was glad to get Gabriel Lena back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made a prediction at the end of last episode that we'd get like a flashback. Kind of bummed we didn't, but it was an hour and 3 minutes of television. Felt really good still.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way they unpacked what we probably would have gotten in the flashback anyways.
Yeah, they do.
So I was cool with not getting it. But I'm with Luke. I feel like I was actually talking to my brother today, and he's like, I think he's on episode 4, but he was like, does it just continue to do this? And I was like, honestly, it's just so good every week. Like, I don't really know how to answer that question. But yes, this show continues to be phenomenal. The changes they make, the things they choose to unpack throughout, you could just tell Craig, as he played through the game, was like, I'd like to unpack this more. And then he does, and he does it in a way that's effective and feels true to the story, and he just continues to impress every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And
him and Neil are a great team.
it seems like every week there's a scene that's pulled straight out of the game that because I haven't played, I always see on
the comparison.
I see comparisons on social media afterwards, and it's just like, this week's was really well done.
Yeah.
And this week's is very iconic.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you see a clip from the game, this is
it.
This is the clip they show of like, this is the game you're playing.
Yeah.
And they absolutely nailed it.
I think my favorite part of this episode was early on when it's like the first thing that happens, like they show up at the old the couple's house, and
They were awesome.
the old guy comes in and is like, did you tell him the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, you telling me the truth?
You made him soup? Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't hurt me.
Yeah.
That bit was funny.
Obviously.
Yeah,
it was a nice little there has been comedy moments, mostly between Ellie and Joel. There's that disconnect of age and experience that they can kind of dig into, but they had a couple of really good moments in this episode with other characters. So
agreed.
I thought I was real nervous for a minute. I was like, they're not gonna like seriously have like Tommy and Ellie just right. I thought Joel was maybe just gonna join them. I am a little sad that it seems like we're just ditching Tommy so soon. You guys know more than me, so maybe he comes back, maybe they come back. But I did really, really love what we got with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I remember this right. I just kind of did play it, but you played it even more recently than me. Doesn't Ellie run off?
Yes.
Okay,
so
that's what I thought.
The scene in the house is after she runs off.
Yeah.
And she goes to this it's basically like an estate, like almost like its own little ranch, and she goes up in this house and goes into the room and is like hiding And some bad guys show up.
Video game stuff.
Yeah.
It's video game stuff. But yeah, it's like a pretty emotionally charged scene because she finds out that Joel's kind of trying to pawn her off. And so she's like, well, I'm just going to leave because she takes the horse. And then you have to kind of go find her. But yeah, then they have that moment where, you know, he's like, we're not family. You're not my daughter. Like, we're going our separate ways. And like, yeah, that's a big moment for both characters. But I loved and the resolution's very similar in the game, but just like okay, I feel like you should have a choice. She's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of Ellie. Like, she just keeps bottling everything up.
In the game, is Joel as vulnerable with Tommy as he is in the show? He gets very emotional and very vulnerable with him in here, and it was one of those things that I loved, and I was nervous, and I haven't seen it online, but I was very nervous about Gamer Bros being like a little pissed that they like making making my
not in the
macho
game.
man.
Yeah,
so it is very different.
Yes.
Okay, and I haven't heard
Yeah.
that kind of critique, which is great.
I
like that a lot. I'm not sure how you guys felt about that.
I'm a huge fan of it.
Oh yeah, it was.
I thought it was great.
It was fantastic, and the performances were incredible.
Yeah. It's one of those things I talk about that, like, you can tell where Craig feels like, Neil, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
And that feels like one of those moments, because in the game you're playing to, you get to Tommy and you're like, oh my gosh, what's this going to be like? And it's good, but it's like not that.
Yeah.
It's
right?
also like in the game, it's the dam breaks.
Yeah, you're at the dam.
Ellie goes with Maria.
Yeah.
And you go with Tommy to fix it.
Yeah.
And you kind of have the conversation through action gameplay.
Yeah.
So honestly, you don't even really feel it as much because you're also doing stuff.
Yeah, you're trying not to get killed.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
But yeah, and then you come back and Ellie has learned about Sarah and
they do a good job of using. They use Jackson well, like the town. They use it well to emulate what you're doing at the dam, which I thought was really cool. Like, it doesn't feel like you miss anything by doing it the way they chose to. Yeah. I've seen some complaints online about, like, well, there's just not nearly enough action. And I see people, and usually, like, I love reading the comments. I always think the discourse is funny.
Yeah.
But one guy said, like, if action is what you thought this show was going to be, then, and he was like, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but, like, I think you missed the point of The Last of Us. It's like, it has action in it because it's a video game.
Right.
Honestly, I bet you if Neil had a choice, it'd probably be about the same amount of action as the show has. I don't think that was his goal.
Yeah.
Because
you just have to have the player do something.
You just have to do something. And so it's, I don't know, that's the biggest complaint I've seen about the episode, and I'm okay with leaving out the damn fight.
It's, and the stuff before, too, because you go to the dam twice. There's a whole sequence of you trying to cross it, and you're like moving cranes, and it's just like they just see it and move on. It's just like, that was good.
That's good.
No, they do a good job.
Yeah, it kind of just goes back to the point of they're cutting out stuff that doesn't need. They're trimming it down to stuff you don't need. Yeah.
Well, and again, this is a personal story for these characters, and so having those moments where it's like the crew, Maria and the crew come up to them, they can build tension. It doesn't have to be a fight, but they can build tension by just having the dog sniff.
Yeah.
Right? And
dude,
I can release that tension.
I was nervous there. That was new.
Yeah, that was different. I was like, well, how are they getting out of this?
and I love how it's in, like, again, like, that was new, and Joel's conversation with Tommy, which referenced that, is also new, but it's that weaving in more of what the character is, their thoughts are that you don't get in a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have personality. Obviously, they've done that well. They haven't made Joel the Master Chief, where it's just kind of the player is the character, but you can really get into the psyche, I think, a little more in a TV show than you ever could in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I just love the brother moment.
Yeah.
I think they do. You know, we just had brother moments end in tragedy, and now we're having brother moments that kind of end in some healing. And I just thought that was good. I thought it was a nice contrast to the previous episodes.
Yeah.
So it was good.
Over in the chat real quick, JT has a question. This might be different, and this is for you guys because I haven't played the game. This might be different for you guys, but I honestly feel like the show is lacking character development that I got out of the game when you're moving video game stuff around.
I get what you're saying, just by like the kind of like Luke kind of mentioned, the conversations you have while you're playing. Like I can see where you would feel that way, but I think the important thing to remember is it's a different medium.
Yeah,
and so it's going to look different. And I think the show does a great job of doing it. Now, obviously, watching the show, having played the game, I think I probably kind of overlook some of that. But like, as somebody who hasn't played the game, I don't know. You probably don't feel that way. You feel like the character development's probably been solid.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. So
absolutely.
But I definitely understand kind of what you're saying. Like, I can see how like you would feel that way. I don't think that's like an empty thing. I think that's very valid.
A little bit like how video games always have to have the character doing something.
Yeah.
They're almost always also feeding you information.
Right.
Through either very intentional dialogue or sometimes it's kind of offhanded or collectible things. Like, go running around to Hogwarts Legacy and it's like, oh, I'm learning all these things, but that's not part of the story and it really doesn't have all that much to do with my character, but it does help with world building.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a different medium, and it would be weird. You would lose a lot of that tension if these characters were just kind of constantly quipping as they walk up the side of the dam, for instance.
Yeah, no. And then Luke, you kind of touched on it with Gabriel Luna, like having him back, and I feel weird because, like, obviously I've known who he is, but I've not realized how good of an actor he was until this. Like, I've seen him in things, and I've always kind of just been like, oh, yeah, he's fine. But, like, in this, he's
awesome.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
He's really good. And, like, the thing I think that is, I always wonder, as, like, an actor, when you have to act across from Pedro Pascal, like, what's that like? Yeah. Because he's so good. Like, you got to bring it, right? It's kind of like in sports. Like, if you're guarding LeBron, like, you got to bring it, right? It's kind of like that. And
raises the
the
bar.
You step up a little bit. And Gabriel Luna's stepped up to the plate every single time and hit a home run. Like, it's insane. He's really good. Yeah. I hope he gets, like, something big out of this. Yeah. Like, where he can be the leading man. And I don't mean, like, a superhero thing. I mean, maybe even just something, a drama. Yeah. Or,
get him an Apple TV Plus show.
Please, God. Anything Apple does, I'm like, I'm interested.
Then the last scene, I thought it was going to end when they leave, but it actually had them going to
Eastern Colorado.
ECU, yeah. I mean, I know exactly, like, what's going to happen. Yeah. They pull up there, and I'm just like, oh boy.
Yeah. Well, and especially too when I see the monkeys, it's like, they're doing this thing 1-for-1.
And like, even for like, there's 3 episodes left, and I know exactly what each episode is going to be. And I'm so excited. But these next 2 episodes are going to be very Ellie focused. Yep. I'm all for it because freaking Bella Ramsey's so good.
She's done great.
Yeah,
she's done really good.
I'm very excited first off, I would agree that the end of this episode, it felt like it was probably pulled from the game.
For the most part, yes.
It's a little different, but
sure. But like in terms of like the walking through an abandoned
college Joel gets injured,
and there's like I can see where it's like, okay, this would make a really compelling video game level. To bring that tension, and they're recreating it very, very well for the show.
And tons of raiders show up in the game.
I figured there were probably more than 3 raiders, but
it's a big action moment.
Yeah, and the injury is you fall off a balcony and you land on like a rebar.
Ew, ow.
Yeah.
It goes through the same spot though.
Yeah.
I was that's good.
But yeah, good ending. And very excited based on the little teaser trailer for next week. That we're gonna
next
get.
Episode.
Is it gonna be a full flashback? You think?
Yeah.
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 That's kind of the vibe I was getting. Like, this is probably a...
It's going to be the DLC. That's going to be the episode.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Sign note.
Sounds good.
I was concerned about.
Luke, you want to read that out
Side note, I know they won't recast, but anyone else concerned about how she will look like 14-year-old when they is supposed to be 5-year gap from part 1 to part 2? You can save this for Fanbox if you want.
No, we can talk about it here.
We'll do it now. No, I'm not.
So she's in her 20s, and they've been doing some costuming to kind of combat that. She's been wearing some things to keep things in.
Yeah.
To look a little less
mature.
Yeah, mature. I think they'll just remove that stuff, and she'll look a lot older.
Yeah.
And man, Hollywood's full of makeup wizards.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
I think they'll be fine, and she's an incredible actor.
Some of it comes down to, I was going to say, so much of it will come down to acting, too.
Heck, when she played,
the ability
what is her name in Game of Thrones? Mormont?
Yeah, yeah.
Like she's 12, and you're like, she actually 40? But she's smarter than everybody else. It also, it comes down to writing, too.
Yeah.
Mix of writing and performance, so.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not really
I'm not worried.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned.
And in addition, when we talk about part 2's filming is probably not going to happen for another year.
At least.
So they're just getting started on developing part 2 right now.
They're probably all playing
Season
the game
2
right now.
Yeah.
Like to get
Can we leave this in?
They're probably playing through and doing like what people do when they adapt novels, putting sticky notes everywhere.
Yeah, I'm really.
On the
I need to listen more to the podcast because I know Craig's writing style. Like how he writes is he just locks himself in a windowless room and like just types all by himself. He doesn't really do like the white writer room kind of thing.
Interesting.
And so like that partnership with Neil, I'm really curious how that's stretched.
Neil's
him.
just on the window going.
In like the clicker outfit.
I can't do it.
So cool.
I'm buying what they continue to sell me week after week. I'm ready for. I'm glad I played Left Behind because now I'm getting that. So.
Yep.
It's gonna be fun.
Gosh dang it.
Indeed.
Every week it's just like, oh my gosh. And it's like it's interesting because like in this episode, they leave, and you see like Joel kind of just finally admits he does care about her.
Yeah. After his
And
having panic attacks throughout the episode.
Yeah, and like you feel that just in their conversation too. Like he opens up, he's like, I wanted to be a singer.
Yeah.
And then just immediately gets stabbed, and you're like, ugh. And you know what's coming. It's just like, I need a break from the heartbreak.
No such thing.
In this game, no such thing. Or a show now too, but